90% of the time it's not really necessary. Right.
Very good.
So I'll kick that off the board. And we're going to try this Raspberry Pi and see if it blows up in our face.
Oh, just have the SD card?
Yeah. Last bit. So this is the top and bottom. And let's see if you're going to play nice today. Why would you play nice? No, where'd you go? See, for some reason, sometimes it doesn't like doing G-code. Okay. That's not right. Gotta love consistency.
Reproducibility. So your thesis, what are you doing? If you don't mind me asking.
It's a little bit weird, but basically doing transferring a human analysis of trust and reputation into communications networks for submarines.
Right, okay.
So the same way that we look at each other's activities, we look at their behaviours, we look at even, you would almost call it body language.
Make assumptions about
not even make assumptions, but you sort of use that to decide whether you trust them or not.
Yeah.
Or it's the ultimate thing of right, who's the odd one out.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what I'm doing is applying some of those principles to flocking within autonomous marine networks. So little drones going around doing environmental survey or whatever.
And noticing if there's a drone doing suspicious things.
Exactly. So one of the behaviours that I'm looking at the minute, just because it's easy to look at, is if a node knows how to flock but not where you're flocking to.
Okay. So it's following along with the crowd.
It's following along with the crowd, but it doesn't know where it's going. It hasn't been told where it's going. And I thought that was going to be a major pain in the ass to derive, but...
Is it just that there's a certain amount of delay to their actions? Is that...
No, it's weirder than that. It's actually whenever you're... if you're looking at the simple stuff, so... I'll show you the graph sometime, but if you're looking at the simple stuff, the deviation from the sort of flock heading isn't as big as you would think. It only really appears whenever you're doing like tight turns and things like that.
Sure.
So you just get these little bumps, but then it goes back to normal. And then the speed, you get a bit of a, you actually get, it doesn't accelerate as quickly because it doesn't have as much drag towards the other object. But what we've found so far is, now this is, I have to make sure that I get the numbers right, but the deviation from the average internode distance from the interdistance average or internode distance of that node. So basically, how far away is everyone else from me, or how far away is everyone else from that guy compared to how far away most people are from each other.
Yep.
And you're only looking at maybe a sort of 10% shift, and for a fair proportion of the tests that we've done, it hides for a long time and then just emerges.
There'll be like one or two instances where it blows its cover.
Well, it seems to be that once it blows its cover, it can't get back. I haven't seen it fall back into the curve, but I haven't been running the simulations for much longer than a few virtual hours.
So have you worked out how to train them to surround suspicious node and attack it?
That's the next step. No, that is legitimately the next step.
That's why I ask. If it's for submarine stuff, I'm sure
it's reactions, and actually the interesting thing is that no one wants to put explosives on submarines for a variety of reasons. One, fuck, the UN would have a field day, and the big one is that it's too expensive.
Yeah.
That being said, most autonomous submarines at the minute do have very, very tiny amounts of explosive, but the reason for that is so that they have
So you can sink themselves?
no, the opposite, so they can float.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
they have explosive drop ballast,
Sure. Right.
and basically it's if all hell breaks loose, because they're all positively blind anyway,
Sure.
just because big bucket of air in the middle, so they just drop their ballast. It was great. There was a story about one of the experiments out in Italy where I still haven't quite got the idea of talking and typing at the same time. It's classic first man's problem. Why are we not printing G code? Unless could it be that simple? But basically there were wave riders, kind of, but they'd sort of go along and they'd surface every so often. They effectively had a profile like that. They'd go up and surface, and they were solar powered, and they were basically let run loose for a while, and then all of a sudden one of them went missing. Gone completely. And I mean, this is a military naval base. Right? It's one of the major NATO naval bases. And just gone, disappeared. Not appearing on GPS, not appearing on radar, not appearing on sonar whenever they scanned the bay. Nothing. Absolutely gone, disappeared. Then a few days later, they got a call from some the local Polsari, and some fishermen. No, it's some little like one dog and himself a dog on a boat, had just picked this thing up out of the water, and having no idea what it was.
Wow.
What he doesn't know is that thing on its own was worth about $5 million. So, so he called in and said, "I think these may be yours." So
that's reassuring.
Yeah.
Disguise them to look like something that doesn't. Something people will return.
Well, yeah, and actually because of that, they've all got stickers on them now at the top that say, "If found, please return to." Which you think is a little bit strange. Okay, so right, if that's the lamp holder, and that's, I'm trying to see if there's any structural differences in the code. Okay, okay. No, couldn't be. Just check.
Took a little bit.
Yeah. Massive text file. Actually, fuck this. I'm better off doing grep.
You've probably heard of ACK as a grep replacement.
Yes. Yeah.
But there's actually another one that is basically aimed to be faster than ACK. Sorry,
Right.
faster than I think ACK itself. Written in Node.js.
Okay.
That's one of the guys that we just hired at GitHub wrote.
That's impressive.
Which is something we want to look into as just an interesting thing to have on your system.
Mm.
It's called NAK.
NAWK?
NAK, I think.
No, because NOC was the old
No,
one.
NAK.
Yeah, and then NAC. Okay, I'll have to look
So
at that.
as opposed to ACK.
Yeah. But there's a few of that sort of style of regular expression engines and things like that.
It's actually on the ACK page. It's like mentioned at the bottom as like you
Sweet.
might also be interested in this. But it's like its sole goal was to be faster than Mac.
Well, that's not a bad goal to have. Oh shit! Because the I think that's a 9. Because there's spillover on this monitor, I can't see the left-hand
Right.
column.
That be corrected.
Okay. So what I was thinking was, so there's one T code. I can't be asked for said. It's just as easy to go.
Yeah, I never got the hang of what I said. I just never had the time.
No, I mean I
to
get.
spend to sit down and be
The
like,
only
okay,
time-
how does this shit work?
Yeah, I mean regular expressions go completely over my head once they get longer than 8 characters.
Yep.
And then variable substitution. I mean, I can't even sit down and do a regular expression off the top of my head. I can't do one that take 2 in and then swap them.
Yeah, no, me neither.
No.
I always have to look it up.
Yeah, that's it. Those wee O'Reilly guides, just the little pocket books, absolutely brilliant. I do have 2 copies of the said knock pocket reference. One for here, and it was always one for wherever I'm working and one for the house.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. I have no expectation that this will work. This is a bitch about the damn people using it. That would have been too nice. Why is it not? What's different about that file? Okay, so
Yes, the upshot of Make Me is basically, I'm just reading this here. Lost since I read it. So when we got a replicator too.
yeah,
And we printed a whole bunch of stuff with the laptop connected.
Yeah.
But that was a pain. And then we started printing from SD card, and that was a pain.
Yeah.
Because it meant that people who didn't have a way to write SD cards were,
yeah,
rich,
exactly.
So we basically bundled up a whole bunch of open source stuff, like
Yeah.
MakerBot's fork of S3G,
Yeah,
MakerBot's Miracle Group,
yeah,
and STLT Walker, which is written by a guy at GitHub.
Okay.
And put an API on top of it, and that's been released as Make Me, which is like a sort of a bundle of all that stuff.
nice.
So I don't actually pretend to know what I'm talking about at all with any of this, but that's what's going on. The HTTP API only allows for a single print at a time and requires a manual unlock to prevent others printing while another print hasn't been removed from the build platform yet.
Now, see, interestingly enough, I think we might have fixed that for ours. We've had this linear driver. I think with effectively a snow shovel in front of it, it could be used to clear the bay automatically.
Alright.
I think. I would love to see it. It would be absolutely amazing.
And a scraper.
Yeah, yeah.
And scoop it all up. This also uses image snap to take pictures by webcam and give you an idea how the print's going. So like you can go, it's not, so like there is a live webcam on it. But
Yeah, but you can query
it's more
it.
that
Yeah.
you go, make me, what's it look like? And it'll
Yeah.
send you back just an image, a static image at that point in time of what the bed's doing.
See, I set up Slicer on my Chromebook, and it actually worked quite nicely, but I've forgotten how I set it up. Always the way. Isn't this just typical fucking Northern Ireland? Everyone's so excited about a 3D printer, but then bugger off.
Give it time.
Oh no, I'm perfectly happy. It means I get to play with it. I mean, I'm under no illusions. I know that if this thing takes off, I'm just gonna have to sit back and manage it.
Get another one.
Yeah.
Come on.
Here we go. All right, how's things?
Ready?
Hi, I'm James.
James, how are you keeping?
Are you doing your event today, or you're just opening the house pretty much?
It's open house. We really don't care.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. I think these are. No. Maybe just as well. 2.9. Sorry, I'm just trying to kick off a Raspberry Pi case, and it's been fighting with me because we've only just set up our shitty machine. So running Ustream and some of the advanced graphics stuff that we need to do, it doesn't really play well. Okay, let's have a look. What's the worst that can happen?
Microsoft about what they provide you.
I keep who is it? I keep trying to knuckle Josh Holmes at Dublin, and basically getting him to, because he gave us our event cam, so the camera for it, and I want to knuckle him for getting a visit and getting a sort of scheduled visit down to Dublin and tying it into a program. I was hoping to get it done a few months ago, but they kept bailing, kept being out of the country. But what we wanted to run was a series of programs that showed a full development from Windows Mobile Phone to through Windows 8 and up through the Azure platform, and to be able to show the end to end. But they didn't follow us, so we or they didn't chase us up. So I'm not gonna.
No,
We've got enough to be doing.
We had a guy come over to do a talk actually from
Yeah.
the event in Microsoft Evangelist.
Yes. Yes. It's a big guy American with a beard.
No,
No. Okay.
no, he's the
UK one?
the Island Evangelist.
Okay. Oh crap. Andrew something I think actually.
He's been here for about a year or so.
Yeah.
But he came over to do a talk, which was more of a Windows pitch halfway through it.
Yeah, that's always dangerous.
Which was basically, I think the advice was, well, if you need an application, no one needs an application. No one actually needs an application in any description. That's because you can't really support them properly on Windows Mobile platform.
No.
That's why you're pushing people away from applications.
No.
But he did mention there's a scheme that they do called Sparks or.
Yes. Yeah, it's part of their BizSpark network. That's it.
Cool.
Yeah.
They provide kit.
Well, they're very interesting. I've been playing, or for I left it lying because to be honest, we've had more interesting things to do. But several months ago, I was playing off, Bindi Krina. So she's the UK Spark evangelist, and Josh, who's the Ireland Dream Spark evangelist, I think. So, and played them off for a while. We basically got the standard offer of free MSDNA, but everyone has Google, don't need MSDNA. And especially in this place, giving everyone Visual Studio 2005 years ago was fairly pointless. And even still, there are maybe about 5% of people who regularly use the building who would actually be interested. What we would have really liked from Microsoft was, same thing that they do for other people's shitty events, is cash. We have all the goodwill in the world, and we have all the good people. We have a fantastic community, which means we've got most of the equipment that we would want.
Mhm.
But our simple fact is we can't pay, rent and electricity and goodwill and, hugs.
He was speaking.
Sorry, I don't mean to turn my back to you. I am
Sorry,
listening.
no,
Yeah.
he was saying about the fact that they had partnerships with other sort of Dell or anyone like that in terms of getting kit.
Yeah. It's interesting. We're doing things very weirdly, and that means that people don't necessarily know what angle to approach us from. To the best of
breaks the mold so much.
Yeah, to the best of my knowledge, there's nobody else. Well, actually, no. There is one guy who has come to us and said that he wants to start another hackerspace in Uri. So yeah, that's quite cool. So I'm now effectively a hackerspace consultant somehow. Fucking hell, I still haven't got this one to work.
Space mentor.
Yeah, something like that. But we don't fit into any of the standard procurement practices. We don't fit into any.
Cost as a what's 5-word number? What's the 5-word business? What is it you come under if you tick any of the boxes? Is it the not social enterprise or?
The closest that we get is social enterprise, but then because we're a non-profit social enterprise, which we're not even a CIC, and there's a few reasons why. Basically, CICs were so new, nobody knew what was happening with them, and we had enough wild variables that we didn't want to add another one. Especially at that kind of legal level where you know yourself that if you fuck up the legal level, you really are fucked.
I try to take yourself at least 3 steps removed from actually having to fill out anything.
Yes.
I've actively taken that stance that I know that I could potentially fill the boots of the person that's doing the paperwork, but I can't fill that without.
Yes. That is exactly the way to do it.
So apologies, you're the other one that's actually filling it, or?
No, actually, I managed to get away from it as well.
Fantastic.
So I found a director, Owen Murray. I don't think you ever met him. A young guy, but he's the only person I have ever met who enjoys paperwork.
Oh. He used to be a fascination of mine, but not anymore.
Keep him around.
Yes. I am so lucky to have him. Oh, go on, this would be really nice if this just worked this time. See, I mean, this is it. We're still making it up as we go along, and
It would be great if you could actually. We had an engineering event. We had an engineering event in this band today, which covered 3D printing.
yes, and it's interesting. Everyone else is kind of getting on this bandwagon. Whenever we've been trying to do it since we opened our doors, but
They have a
nobody.
very good one, but they have a very, very, very good one in Bangor. I can't tell you the name of it, but when I was looking it up, I was going, oh shit, that's actually fucking that's awesome.
Yeah.
The one that, so it'd be worth having a chat with him because he's very clued up with it all. And he does consulting it. He does consulting it pretty much for the program. So,
But this is it. I wish I had their money.
But he's apparently the one in Bangor is worth a look. And I play, and they're hiring it out as well for people.
All right.
I think some of them have been hiring out at £6 a pop for the printer.
£6 a pop? Jesus, that must have cost them a lot. That's way over the odds.
Is it?
In terms of material costs, it's about 1,500%.
Alright.
Whenever the material costs are insanely low. Right. Try and put it into a bit of perspective. Right. One of those companion cubes.
Yep.
Right. That size, which costs bugger all. I think that one's about 3p or something like that. One of those that's 20 by 20 by 20 centimeters would cost less than a fiver. In terms of pure materials cost, we haven't sat down and worked out the energy costs yet. And I mean, God knows what that is. But okay.
I didn't even factor in all the maintenance on that as well, but he knows he's been involved in costing it all up in terms of.
Okay, so after all that, it just needs to not be plugged into the damn computer. But yeah. Right, that should hopefully be interesting. And tell me the video's still going. Yeah, looks good. And looks good. Sweet. Right. With this, I'm going to wait for this to heat and print one layer. and then we can go for a dander. I can't remember when, or have you been here yet?
Been in once,
Yeah, I was just in at a flying pass. The place is still a tip, but we've got a big tidy schedule basically. Between exam season and I've been up to my eyes with actual work. You know, I don't get paid for this shit, unfortunately. But strictly speaking, I still shouldn't be here. But we just wanted to have a nice little sort of opener. People would always complain on it.
that sounds like people I've been working with.
Yeah, yeah, loads of fun.
No, I was here for one of your, when it was, the one just before Christmas.
Yeah,
Was it your last one?
yeah. Well, not the Calvin and Lightning.
No, we did talking and someone talked about being a miserable bastard or something like that. Or
Yes, David. Yes, that was a good one. That was one of my favourites actually. Okay, 197. Yeah. Well, I mean, the place is still madhouse, but we love it for our sins. Well, so it's quite interesting. We've got, I think it's next week. We've got Raspberry Jam tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm going to have to relearn, I suppose. Go on. Are you not extruding enough? Come on, catch. See, the reason why it does this sort of outer ring is to try and avoid exactly this. Sorry for just stopping mid-sentence, but I'm paranoid about this stuff. Looks like it's steady now. Right.
I think you're going ahead.
Well, I hope so. I'll have to check back in again when.
Is this sort of test print?
Yeah, pretty much. This is. Yeah. Just wondering because that's not ending up very smooth. It'll come out in the layers. Worst comes to the worst, we've lost 100 pence of glass. But yeah, I mean, the A to B illustrator program goes quite that is coming up lovely. But yes,
How long is it going to take?
that one that's half an hour now, and it's got one layer done.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think the one that I saw now was saying something about 2 hours or something. So it's actually a pity that the angle on the camera isn't quite right. Let's get it a little bit higher. I really want to do this. That's as good as anything, I suppose. Try and do some soft lighting. Hello. Right. Actually, that's unplugged, so we can take you through the software anyway. Software is surprisingly simple. It's it's one of those things that if you're trying to design something, it's going to be a pain. But if you're stealing somebody else's stuff, it's fantastic.
Okay.
So the one that we quite like is called Thingiverse.
Yeah.
I mean, all of these things that we've got printed at the minute.
Is that one of the bubble chips?
Yeah. We
I want to show off.
we printed, and actually, it's quite cool to have a look at. Is that some of them are slightly deformed, some of them are majorly deformed, and that's what happens to the ones that I left sitting printing overnight, because I think it that whenever it was switching between the two, it was catching the tail and then dragging the cube off and then dragging it around.
It wasn't where I expected it to be.
No, it's not even that it was literally dragging the cube around and then it got effectively wrapped around the extruder. So whenever I came in, there was sort of blue gunk all around the extruder. I'm trying to see, there was one that was epically destroyed. Yes, there we go. No, this one I don't understand, because it looks almost like it sort of gave up on the last couple of layers and just sort of decided to splooge.
Scary ball.
Yeah. And then you can see that that's where I came in and this thing was sort of hovering along with the extruder, and it was like, shit. So yeah, unattended updates are not quite as good, but these are lovely. So these are only really, in terms of material costs, it's only really about sort of 5-10.
Okay.
No, I mean, we still need to sit down and work out the electricity costs, but for people in here, we don't really care. The modes are quite interesting. So that's the draft mode.
Yeah.
Which, is still pretty good. Yeah, and that's done in 10 minutes-ish. Then you're looking at that for the higher quality.
Okay.
Now, the other thing is that you can get that one for, I don't know why, but that one didn't show it off as well as the Mac. We got a fair way through. We were doing a bigger version of this. This was done on the MakerBot, and that's their highest quality.
Yeah.
Even if you just look at the ridges in the bottom couple of layers, we've got much higher vertical capacity. It's down to, I think it's 0.1 or 0.01 millimeter of Z-axis accuracy. The XY-axis accuracy is limited by the nozzle diameter, which is 0.4 mil, so you can't make anything smaller than your paintbrush. But because you're laying it on top, if you've got the layers really tiny, you can do you've got really good vertical accuracy or whatever you want to call it. So I mean, there's guys who print out, like there's guys, wheels for RC car. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty awesome. And then you see, now this is perfect. So you go. And you can literally just go, right, okay, I need all these things. Okay, right, what crap do I do? So looks like there's two versions of this, and okay, brilliant. This is why people annoy me. Did he wait exactly a year to release the update? Shit. But yes, so you can just. Yes, you're right. Japanese. But then he just waited a day and didn't remove the other one. But yes, so what you can do is you just download off Origin, and so this gives you the STL files, which is just effectively the model. Then you can extract just the raw files to you. I'm trying to get people into the habit of trying to share models. Now, whenever I say trying to get people into the habit, I decided that this morning and it would be a problem. So, yeah, it's not official policy. And do I have slicers still open? Yes, okay. So, this is an application called Slicer, which is built on top of Perl. And the idea is that you have your model file, which is effectively the design of the skin, and then you have to turn that into instructions that the machine can actually follow. So left, right, up, left. Usual stuff. It's pretty much it's if I remember correctly, it's a text file that's basically point cloud data, more or less. Well, it's vertex and point cloud data. It could be either. Whereas G-code, which is what goes to the printer, is it looks very much like sort of even dot matrix printer, script. Whenever you ever sort of scan what was actually happening on LPT, it looks fairly similar. And then really easy if his numbering system is so fucked that you can't even. Fuck, I hate people sometimes. And hopefully, depending on what size those are, should be able to auto, because that's what we did with this. It was just a case of these are two separate STL files, and actually that's also what we did with all of these. Those were individual STL files, but we said might print off 25 of them and turn that into a single G-code file. So you don't tell the printer to print 25 of them. You tell the slicer to print however many you like.
The STL files, they're resizable.
Yes.
Okay.
So you can arbitrarily set the scale, which is fantastic. As I said, you can Cura, which is a little bit dangerous.
Okay. I like it already.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is really nice, and I wish we had a more powerful computer that we could use for this. But we're running out of them. Unfortunately, we're behind. These are the ones that we're starting to consider actually needing to use. But there's a button on it that says expand to fill available space. We've got a build volume of 20 by 20 by 20 centimeters.
Okay.
And it just went off. The other thing is that the G-code computation is exponentially complex in terms of volume. So every time that you double the volume of space that you're going to be slicing, you square. No, I think you actually you cube. Yeah, every time you double, you cube it. You cube the amount of time and amount of effort that it takes.
Yeah.
So we actually gave up. We never worked out. We have a guess of how much it would cost. I was saying earlier, it would cost around a $5 to print a big 20 by 20 cube. We don't know because we left it running on Nile Ball's much better laptop for about 2 hours, and it eventually gave up. Just because it just wasn't giving anything. So that's your arranged STL files. If you want, you can screen them and everything. I think auto arrange is already done. And then you now I've already set this up with the configuration file. You'll need the slicer isn't strictly speaking designed for the Ultimaker, but everything can be adapted.
Okay.
And
So since you're exporting here and you've configured that, you don't need to actually do the slicer to the G-code on that machine. You could then just bring G-code along.
yes, so the G-code
do
is
the rendering effectively
exactly.
somewhere else.
So you do the rendering at home, come in with an SD card. So this is why we got the add-on pack.
Yeah.
So we've got actually that's not connected to the computer at the minute because it's I've settled on the idea that having it plugged in just buggers things out. It's much easier to build the G-code, put it onto an SD card, and send it to the rest. What we're actually going to think about doing, or what I'd like to do after this weekend, so that we get it out of the rest of the pack. Hello. No, it's a drop-in session. So and after we get the Raspberry Jam done, I'm going to be taking my Raspberry Pi and having that left on its own. So not doing any rendering on this, but it's just acting almost like a print server.
Okay,
So you
you
send
a rep route based on Raspberry Pi.
based on Raspberry, or using the Raspberry Pi as a controller. Yeah,
completely.
yeah, cool. Yeah. So yeah. Sorry, Andrew.
Hello, Mary Jane. We met before.
Yes. I'm trying to remember where.
When Martin Dog first started.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we
Were you
bounced
here
back
for
and
the?
forth on Facebook as
Were
well.
you here for the?
For
No, I think
I think
I either saw you there or
I did only
remember.
sponsor
Yeah.
with it.
But yeah, so in to check out the 3D printer.
Oh, definitely. Fascinating.
Hopefully, if it all goes well, I can't remember whether Ustream gives you useful files or not. But I'm hoping to turn this into a time lapse, which is going to be pretty sick. Yeah. So I'm still playing with different views. Unfortunately, you'll appreciate this. I sat down and spent far too long googling of how to do this as a webcam server. There's a guy in Carolina who has spent many weeks working on it, and he's got up to a whopping resolution of 400 by 300 at 7 frames a second, which is shit.
Oh, okay.
It's absolute. It's that's
Such a brilliant thing. Because the Raspberry Pi came out whenever it was Terminal Square.
yeah.
One of those, a camera, a 3G
Yeah.
card in the slot. You're happy with it.
Yeah.
It's that little. It's a small.
I'm going to try and push Marianne.
It's a small computer that's designed for the education market, designed to be really cheap for schools and the PhD program. So kids can get it. The school can have dozens of them. It's a small computer that is basic enough that you're understanding all the computer principles,
Yes.
but awesome enough to do some interesting things like HTML, and so you can plug it into your high-def TV. There aren't too many domestic uses for it, but it's a very
Coming
young
there.
thing.
Yes, it's
And there are a lot of people that are building it. They're doing a lot of it.
Looks like technology is a plateau, so it's something I'm like,
So
Yes.
the whole is basically the switch. So to the point where you could use that for a power motor. Basically engineering as well. So you could plug anything into that and know how it works and how you'd be worried about letting someone loose with not knowing what they're doing. Whereas if they created this,
It's now pretty cool.
remote control systems and things like that.
Yes, that's
I've not really played with it yet. I'm not sure.
I have one of them at home.
I like the case. I actually really like that case. I've not seen that. No, the little packets.
Yeah, that's one big thing.
Oh!
If you have a look at it, you can see the Raspberry Pi symbol just coming up.
Is that what they? That's great.
So that's good one.
It's nice to be able to see the workings of things.
Yeah.
Over
Nothing happens. Yeah.
I think it's getting correctly stands out. Lots of schools
well, of course, that's the better way to put it. Oh, that's where it was, right? Okay. That's where I am. That's where I live. That's where
Give them free rein to play about.
Cutting edge.
Hopefully.
So that's it. Then we're going to use it.
First time you see a rainbow, just watch it. It's
It's not
hypnotic.
what it's doing, it's kind of just the whole concept. Yeah. Basically, but you're not photocopying it.
Yeah, they're getting better with colours and more materials.
Or uneven things.
Kidney. Kidney was one of the things
Yes,
you're putting
yes, there was something.
cells into it and
Yeah.
builds the structure.
Yes, I think I came across that yesterday as well. That was yes, called the cells, because every kind of holistic therapies and medicine and that kind of thing would be the concept of it building in sort of plastic or metal or whatever. Okay, you then talk about cells, and I was like, well, that's one step.
The cells is brilliant because you've been growing the cells from the patients and no rejection problem anymore.
That's how you sort of know these simple parts. Not measurable for aspects,
You know,
or
someone was
your,
actually
or your
doing
whatever, isn't it?
Someone did that the other day actually. They were going. They've got a toilet basically that it's a toilet piece that was missing and apparently just broke off and they wanted to replace it within too much for apparently they can't just pick it up and then you screw it in the system trying to get off the first time for it to get in the purpose that was discontinued.
Exactly, I've got a friend who knows, cook apart, which is nice. She's always the last one. And she says, oh, nice. And they've stopped manufacturing this, whatever part of it is. It's like, if you tour around all the books to get one, they print it.
Yeah.
What?
It's getting quicker. I was actually, I've only really been I was quite surprised that they tool the software tool that you can use to actually create the images. I thought we were doing something that was quite bespoke, so it's no, just anything that's creating a 3D imaging, like Google Sketch. Yeah, something that's free of charge to use. You can download the internet.
Can do the 3D imaging
Do the
for
3D
you.
imaging, which you then convert into this. So something that you can download for free, you can learn for free.
Just
There's
don't,
such video
just
tutorials.
don't let anyone in the government know that.
Well,
Actually, they're already trying that.
Actually did it.
They're a gun manufacturer has 3D printed all the core parts of the gun, but as a gun manufacturer, which bits need all the strength and all that doesn't really matter.
It is, and it's like someone's panic over and that business. Anything in humanity where there's beautiful, wonderful, positive side of it. That's always that shouldn't stop you from having that because of
Very bit of fun. The fact is that potentially there's the fact of those guys who got in between.
a great believer in positivity. It's the good news from that. Cheerio.
So, what base were you based?
Well, we're down Farset area, but there's an outfit shop in Railway Street on this first half. It's just around not far from the college there, so we can usually be there all day. So it's kind of plans for the first half.
What is it that you assessments, or is
Well, really, what I do is sort of when I kind of body's got malfunctioning in some way, is sort of bringing it back into balance because often the body will maybe go into a pattern of something which we may something it's really the electrics in the body, which medicines now with MRIs now are starting to realize that more excited about electrics. Oh, but we need something to do with this. And I think they're now making the overlap with tapping with his feet.
I should definitely go for some acupressure at the moment.
Would you like a card?
Yes, if you've got one, that would definitely.
The way I do acupressure is about teaching you the technique or whatever routine to use for yourself.
I used to do martial arts, you see, so.
Oh, okay, yeah, yes. I think when I first heard about meridians, it was through Tai Chi. I was fascinated by that at the time. I was like kind of chef and catering. It was out on PT, listed under kinesiologist. And that really started. I was totally skeptic. There's no way that you can sort of put parts of the body and use pressure and that would fix things. So, how's it works?
You are in Lisbon then?
Yeah.
When are you in Lisbon?
Well, as I said, usually on Mondays. But basically, what you do, if you're interested in appointment, phone me up, and then we just sort out where the diary is.
Where you meet and where.
Yeah, exactly. Where's the most convenient for both of us? Whether it's Lisbon and downtown Toronto.
What's the most convenient place for you, sir? What's the most convenient place for you?
Well, you see, that depends, because I do, I'm in Lisbon once a week, so.
What I was going to say is that you've actually got,
and also
you've got courses that are in digital, there's social media and how to use them.
So
Okay.
that's coming out really well.
Hello.
I'm Mary Ann.
I'm Mary Jane.
Nice to meet you. I'll remember that. Hi, Mary.
Hiya, I'm James.
Nice to meet you.
So this is our
Very nice.
our recent new toy. This was crowdfunded, so basically we run on a less than shoestring
We
budget.
have Kickstarter, like stuff like that. Over
Yeah,
here.
we did what's called Sponsoon. Kickstarter is obviously a little bit more product oriented, but Sponsoon is more sort of program oriented almost, and it's for program support. So we basically said, look, if we have to pay for this just out of the Farset Labs coffers, then we're going to be waiting about 2 years before we can reasonably justify dumping that money. If you guys really want this, check it out. And it worked fantastically. We ended up getting about 20% over what we needed, so we just bought more stuff.
Of course, you don't give it back.
Yeah, we've still got about another 4 kilos worth of PLA sort of ring fence. So we haven't bought it yet, but we know because we wanted to experiment first. But we have a small budget set aside for the ring fence for whenever this stuff runs out, we can get more. So the idea is that members can come in and, prototype it.
So you're doing this right now?
No, this is my fault. Basically, one of the things we're running tomorrow is Raspberry Jam. So it's everyone knows and loves the Raspberry Pi. So Northern Ireland hasn't really had Raspberry Pi get together. So we hosted the first one in November. And it was very, very unorganized. It was very, very chaotic. Nobody had done it before. We had no idea what kind of card we'd get. We had from kids at 6 up to adults in mid to late 50s, like experimenting with these different things, all with different levels of experience and different levels of knowledge and different levels of context knowledge. So if we tried to put together an educational program for that particular event, it would have been a complete another waste of time.
Right.
So we're taking
You've got
things.
people like me going, what's the Raspberry Pi? I've heard of Apple Pie. Type.
Yeah, I don't know what a Raspberry Pi
No,
is.
I'm not know
Small computer, pretty much. That's
Oh,
it.
okay.
So computer on a credit card more or less.
Great.
And we'll. It is that shockingly simple. Funnily enough, one of the other guys that I used to do research with,
Yeah,
is doing
on the train in a second. But,
in terms of your rollout problem, rapid deployment networks. One of the things that he's looking at is rapid deployment wireless networks in disaster relief. One of the things he's put together is the 3G Wi-Fi network, but tied with a bit more intelligence than normal. So basically, you throw a couple of them around in this space and they self-organize it.
They should upgrade to your IP. Basically,
It's-
come in and generate an IP.
Basically sets up an ad hoc network so you don't have to worry too much about the gaps.
That's good stuff. Could have used that.
But yeah, so Raspberry Jam's going to be this weekend, so I thought, right, might as well try having one weekend. Also, a lot of our rewards, people ask for Raspberry Pi cases, so I wanted to
So
test
that's
it.
what you're making right now.
Yeah, that's, well, I mean,
Adorable.
this one's a laser cut
Excuse me,
one
James.
from Fab Labs down the road, which is,
Yeah.
you know, so yes, I'm not the biggest Apple fan. The guy who
Nor
was,
am I, so we can trash them all you want.
no, the guy who was,
Is that Steve?
yeah, the guy who was making these cases said, you have to make the case. What do you want? And I said, "Look, as long as it's not pornography or the Apple logo, I'm absolutely fine. I think I'm gonna have to tell him to take it back because to me that was just amazing." So,
Yeah. What kind of Lennon gone wrong or something?
well, yeah.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, the worst thing
Lennon
is,
without imagination.
Yes.
Or that's
Yeah.
right.
or Lennon with your.
Yeah, you're more like Lennon, actually.
Well, I mean, this is the problem.
That's
Everyone
Vladimir
is sitting there going,
Yeah. Yes. Yeah,
Tell me what Vladimir instead.
Go
right?
gone wrong, isn't it?
So are you teaching a college? A
well,
college?
it seems to really this is something you can chat about.
No, but you keep running away. You make me nervous. Okay.
Inspecting.
Let's see.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Well, we've got a good one. Our gathering lightning hour rule is 7 minutes. If the audience are really interested, we do let them off if the audience are really interested. If the audience we give them a bucket of a phone number, please. And if you're bored after 7 minutes, the alarm goes off and you can have Yeah. Yeah.
They always forget this. We're not diagnosed.
Yeah.
It's all video. It's all interactive on video. Trying to do a description of here's the video.
You could, the video is only available for 10 minutes.
That's it.
Time base is not
Yes.
internal Facebook crowdsource their presentations.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So 12 years ago, someone discourse job, would say, that's a great idea. That's a really cool thing. It has to be specific. But to keep it very short like that,
Yeah, if you can't sort of get someone interested in what they're switched off by now. I know you do. You do. That's what I mean. That's
and that would be a little cheat sheet of like they had the presentation, do what we want versus use the first two sentences.
Yep.
This is getting ridiculous.
Watch this, do this, as such a well, we're all busy and we're all oversaturated, so it's tough to love to do what's really
Yes. That's the first project for 3 years.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
What is this? Fuck you, money. It's just enough money to, or a little bit over the amount of money that keeps you comfortable, but you're given so much freedom that effectively the company says, right, you are often you're guaranteed this money for this money to this project. And no one's going to be saying, right, okay, you have to take this before you deadline. So I really like it. It was even like a second chapter. I have to say, I've adopted it as my dream, like to have a decent amount of fun. So that also sort of gives people a little sort of cognitive break whenever they hear people actually swear in professional life. Yes, I'm unfortunately not good. I meant to put myself down as a guest party, and I got invited to go to Oxford.
sounds like fun.
Yes, that's the other thing I did. I made a professionality. On top of all of
In
this.
Oxford, England.
Yes.
How's the scene now?
I haven't been actually. I'm yeah, no, I've got a load of friends who have done there, but I'm basically I'm doing a PhD as well. Down in Kings Island, down at the so that's my well, no, funny enough, I was originally supposed to be going for circular flight, and basically I got told about 3 days before the deadline that, oh, by the way, Wednesday so
What? That's like MIT. MIT basically double use the
yeah,
MIT's part of that.
yeah, and no, I mean, I fell in project or the project proposals to Judah. Because we never expected Dave to get that in the first stage.
That's what happens.
But sometimes we
That's
what
how
you ask
price
for.
myself,
Yeah,
because I really don't
just
want to
like
do
that.
that.
Well, I mean, it's not bad. I've got excuses to go to the mainland very regularly, to Paris very regularly, to
What's the main
Roma.
thing? Is that Europe?
No, the mainland is the United
That'll help
Kingdom.
you guys. Okay, guys.
It's almost sort of
It's an
front.
island.
Yeah. Well, this is an island that is kind of English, as it were.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
I understand. I
Yeah,
understand.
so across the water, yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's almost sort of like fractal geography. If you're on the mainland, then the mainland is Europe. But if you're not on the mainland, then the mainland is the mainland. But
Okay,
yeah,
get that. Yeah.
exactly,
Same thing.
exactly. But no,
Political borders.
Yeah.
yes. Although interestingly enough, actually, we've just confirmed that we're running, or we're collaborating with some of the other hackerspaces across the island to Ireland's first hacker camp. So we're taking a weekend in somewhere in the middle of absolute nowhere, some scrub camp.
That's actually look for the MBT.
Yeah.
They have
No, as in literally in the middle, it's like in a scout cottage in the middle of
Yeah, that's
an activity centre.
concentration.
Yeah.
That's not running off to the street shop in the pub or
Well,
whatever else.
Well, no, this is the big question. Everyone's worried.
Cows and water don't
No, we're.
Others are having their
You know, I suspect we're going to have like 5 or 6 different 3D connections all bundled together to provide the backbone. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. There's no two. Everyone thinks that Smarties are all double. They're not. They're not. I work. Yeah, on Athlone. Athlone's good. Both Intel and Ericsson have major research centers in there. So do Gaelic there, actually. So I work down there in Ericsson doing that.
No, right, yeah, I was going to say, can I take
Yes, yes, feel free. Perfect. Yeah, but it's brilliant. It's such a drive. And it's really interesting because Galway's also sort of sitting there on the sidelines going, don't forget about me. Yeah.
They have a whole other culture. We look out there and
We're looking out beyond.
we're like the sea, you know.
But they're across the water is kind of
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, is there mainland that's right?
exactly.
Well, I remember one time I was in Mayo actually, and there was a sign that was just putting out into the water, and it said Boston. And I was like, so I was talking to one person in the research center. What's this Boston do? Boston, Mass. They have this parochialism that's just incredible, you know. But I-
Gilbert Club,
Yeah. But I'm sure there's some stuff happening also like Sligo.
Yes. Funny enough, I haven't heard much comment out of that
There's
school,
dairies
but I've heard
coming out.
Derry's taking advantage of the city.
Dairy's always been
circumstances.
Dairy's always been
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a creative capital for a long time. Their creative industries have been far more developed than Belfast has really been supporting. Even now, I remember even 10 years ago going for different things. Very, very interesting compared to the often quite constrained and orchestrated programs in the world of Belfast. Belfast is looked over too closely. Derry was a little bit more free. Now, I think even, Mark Nagurski has a lot to be, he's basically on culture tech. He has a lot to be proud of. But I think one of the downsides of the attention that he's drawn to the area is that sort of prescriptive, controlling attitude is starting to be bled from Belfast onto Derry. We've managed to hide under the radar, so no one's trying to control us yet.
That's the whole thing. It's constant. It's like you're a washing machine, constant agitation.
Yeah, we've got over the next 2 weeks, we have less than the positive news on invest in AI. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm
I-
reading them as a receiver, so I should put it in word for you.
Yes, apparently they like me.
That's not us.
Yeah, apparently they
So
like
that's
me.
when, that's the,
But that's because I haven't taken any of their money.
Well, when I was sort of first came employed, it was Invest NI that I went through.
Yeah.
So home employ and Arena.
Yeah, I think I've met Ian a few times. But no, the worrying thing was actually it was long in the very, very early days of this. We went to Invest and said, we think this might work. It fits your modus operandi almost perfectly with a little bit of creativity added in. What's the procedure for getting something like this done? I said, oh, well, it might take 5 years. Hello, welcome back.
You don't have 5 years in this space.
Yeah.
5 years. 5 months is also a long time.
Well, but the stupid thing was it would have been 5 months before they gave you commission a feasibility study and all these things. In that 5 months, we found several properties we were coaching, chasing everything up. We've been developing the community already, and then 3 months after that, we were so,
They say they're entrepreneurial, but they're not really. You can see your red tape.
but the thing is that they try and be both.
Well, they can do that, but it's very difficult because you don't figure out the problems.
Yeah. I know.
How do you keep your message out?
Well, we've intentionally been very slow for the time being. We've effectively been doing internal network spread. And one of the interesting things we've observed recently in the past hello? Marianne, Owen, one of the other directors. And we just talked about this sort of yeah. One of the interesting things that happened is that their membership started to spread beyond our first order group. And then we started we knew that things had started to stabilise the acronym. Oh, by the way, have a look at the disaster that happened to the tubes. I think they just got caught. We got quite most of them out. I was Trenton most of the time.
I have a house in Newton,
Oh, really?
just across the river.
Oh, fantastic.
9 miles from my
Lovely.
my mother lives there
No,
full
we
time.
don't talk anymore.
I can still come.
Yeah. So I know, or I knew a lot of the guys who were going through Rutgers.
Rutgers has,
Yeah.
Rutgers has a, and Lehigh also in Lafayette.
Didn't really see much of them, but
Yeah, no, that's. The interesting thing is that, the whole industry is running people with science background.
the problem is that the university and college program aren't going to fix that because university and college are really good.
Of course I do. If you're a student and all of a sudden you're searching for a place to share some light, share information, share people, share cooperate with
Yeah.
they would love to know what's going on in the government.
Yeah.
So much coaching here. Is that a company that's software? I'm explaining to you that the larger than Paris,
Yeah.
so they don't want an Excel spreadsheet and this and then also actually what gets to is like real applications.
Yeah.
Not saying we're better, it's just that we've just been able to have develop faster. And my issue is talent. Also very, very simple. They're always shooting for everything. Plus different types of leadership. All kinds of
Yeah.
I've also
Yes. Yeah, that's always fun.
like Spider-Man.
No, I mean, there's the classic one. It's the same
We
way.
usually never IDF closet.
Yeah. Usually, no, always.
We have to. I can't throw fiber down a stairwell.
See, this is why it's more fun doing hacker
Compliance.
conferences.
I did go back and do this. I've been there, done that.
But no, one of the things that I saw, not really this one particular fiber version, where it was first off it was a piece of yarn on a brick, just chuck it over, and then tie an Ethernet cable to that, and gigabit Ethernet, and then take that back with fiber duct tape to it, to run back again. So we effectively incrementally upgraded the fabric across. It was only really a 40 meter gap over 20 meters. So it really wasn't necessary. We could just as easily.
I have a lot more fun dealing with a lot of other things. Like, the servers are bad. We had a perfect store.
Yes.
All locations.
Yeah.
It's built like Fort. Well, it's built like a Fort. And close to the stairs. So what happened is we ran out of oil generators.
I couldn't get any.
There was no more oil and gas in the house. So we could continue to shift. It's really interesting. You know, a lot of people in Brooklyn, Jersey, there's no cell phone around.
Yeah.
Computers went out. They couldn't get out of their house. Get like across the street, right? Couldn't get into it. It's like I was I could.
Yeah.
And I could. And I was going to tell them they could switch over by service to
Yeah.
other places.
Yeah.
You forget how vulnerable they can be to
I was crazy over it. Who's this calling us? You know, answer the phone, damn it.
Maybe it's.
You got your tree. But we were down, so many people were down.
Yeah.
And this was
I mean, this
and I'm
one-
like this big.
I'll tell you, this is one of the reasons why we moved into this particular because we had opportunities up in the quarter, we had opportunities, we're now looking at opportunities up in the quarter, all around the place.
Is that what I'm going next?
Yes. So we've got better at we are one part away from being ever in the market. It's calculated down. It's actually the junction box going from Manfredi is just at the end of the bridge. It's under
Yes,
that
yeah.
crossroads.
It's under the Brussels to the police station.
And basically that line goes up to Londonderry and out.
Sometimes we like six runs down there.
Well, pretty much we've gone 50, between 52 and 55 milliseconds to yeah. Oh no, because I always prefer going to New Jersey because that's like the standard is that it's nice and good stuff there, and then it's their stuff. But yeah, so the worst thing is that we've got better. Apart from we don't have better bandwidth than we can pay for it. But Titus are fantastic. There's 10 meg symmetric, 50 hours. We give them credit for everything. Absolutely. Yeah, so they're absolutely amazing. And even better than that, whenever we do landing, we run the game jam here.
We can afford.
We asked for it. It'd be nice if we could really have double. They said, oh, fucking 50 meg. So that was absolutely amazing. So we were able to live cast pretty much everything. It was a great hour. Best one, we had everybody downloading like the game SDKs, and it was just our limiting factor is the service.
That's
It's a good position to be in.
Yes.
But I actually think
I would recommend doing a lot like this.
Yeah. Or where are we?
Yeah. This is all.
Yes.
And, you know, our prices are different now. They're completely unlimited.
Oh yeah.
It's not going to be, decided to so, I'd like to correspond with you.
Definitely.
Any way that we can help you on our side.
Amazing to watch, isn't it?
Yeah, they're pretty good. I was just checking the scale there to see if it was actually the right size. It looked a bit small.
I actually thought it looked a bit small.
Funding would be very, very good. Basically, we're one of the most rare things.
Have you checked it? I was looking at it, I was thinking, when I took the places for that, I was like, that's more like percent size.
Yeah.
We are definitely charity. Yeah, exactly. It's
Am I-
so, so whenever we're trying to set this up, looking at other people for the report, legislation, maybe for the charities commission legislation. Of course. Yeah. Owen is our board master. The board of directors is me, Owen, and David. We've got a board of advisors that has not been convened yet officially.
That's, I think there's some advice about finance. Okay, isn't it going to be the directors have to be sure as well?
Yeah.
So that's okay. But, the board of advisors is very tight.
Oh, but they're too big to do.
No, they're too big to succeed. That's what I say to my client, because they think that they can, the data we put, make sure that they get the right numbers. Not only next time, it's mining, what do you do? Road.
Yeah. Oh no, I've actually, that's one of the
Unbelievable.
4-pointed watches.
Because
So-
my people are not gonna touch something, like, I'm not gonna get Warren Buffett to take his phone and go like that.
No.
I want, by permission, the phone is just like this. No RFID.
How do you start heading to that highway commission?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just doing it like that, so I'll wait till I know that, how the parameters for the event is, we're gonna talk to SAP.
Yeah.
To integrate our software, we do all the digital aspects, we just, anything digital.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'd love to do that. So yeah, no, when it comes to boards, go and try to get some of the parties.
Yeah, it's the joy of corporate social responsibility. This is
You know, it's real.
Yeah.
There's the CEO of Fox, Stephen Jones, is here. And former chief He's a good.
Yeah, if you could put a word on that would be very nice.
Should get a telecom.
Yeah.
Should get insurance.
We're actually recording the whole state.
All state laws will be You want to
Joe needs to- Yeah. It's definitely going
Is it? Of course it is. I'm like broke coming over here. So no, it's all good stuff.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Pleasure meeting you.
How do I get out of here? How do I get where I go next?
Easy stop in his taxi.
Good?
Yeah.
You do that?
I'm heading over towards Tim should pick up the things rest of Friday, so
At the work nicely.
If you're going around city centre,
Sounds perfect.
sounds perfect.
No, he's already going.
No,
because
we're going about. I'll have to go. Yeah, pretty much. I like. I'll give me a chance to drive.
Nice
I'll
people
take
work,
13.
likes driving. So.
Alright, do you like Steve? Do you know Steve Moore?
I do know Steve Orr, yes.
Yeah.
You like Steve Moore?
Oh no, it's Steve Moore's strictly speaking on well, one of the big corners of our local writers. He's been involved for a long, long time.
That's really, just to give you a look at why I'm over here.
Yeah.
I went to the New York, Belfast conference at Marshall.
Yeah.
I was very good with the Irish, I don't like.
Yes.
And that's why it's definitely on Jerry. That's why I know that Jerry is. That was back in the 80s. There was this church that was going during the famine. Let's do it now to the cardinal. And we saved the church. We saved it, not just that's kind of how it is. So I went to that, and he was sitting next to the Bloomberg's. I couldn't even try to. I'm so. It's not like I'm like. He's talking about what's happening. Construction is happening. This one's you know, it was like we were in the crowd and talking, and really incredibly personally about where business is going, where technology is going, and it was like we got
Oh no, it was fantastic
it's
story.
very helpful. On the small company, it's very proud. I don't even know how the English thinks.
I know. Well, the English think by rules often and red tape.
Be a little bit more
Yeah.
You are.
We haven't exactly
This guy is Vladimir. Your name.
Yeah.
we haven't exactly had a stable government
No,
for
that's
about
what I mean.
120 years or something.
Exactly. Because it was like the classic from a person, this is farmer and built, a place that maybe should be, well, hadn't had a proper it was on a farm. So it's like that sort of thing, just living on roads as well. He used his bungalow to store all the hay, and he used it for a barn. So the planning commission thing was,
There was a great story just along those lines. It's
was
actually
he built the barn over it or something?
yeah, it's the other way around.
Was it
It's
the other
that
way?
he
What
built
was it?
it was a straw pile. Basically, it was a big sort of just has a palace of straw, and just a blue tarp over it, and then inside he poured out the inside, basically making it into a long sort of Chernobyl-like shell, where he built a house on the inside, and then let it sit there and lived in it for I think it was about 2 years or something. And then he took off the straw, and then planning people came out and said, "You can't do that." I said, "No, existing structure, you can't do that."
I've been
Well, you're kind of scrappy.
yeah.
You have to be scrappy.
Yeah, and
It's down in Dublin, it's the good people. They don't have a little bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. They do and they don't. They don't ask permission. And in this room, ask permission. It's good.
See, we've got
I don't mean it that way. But like if you're
no.
close
2 months in, we got our first introduction.
you're a little bit too scrappy. But if you put it to the point of
Yeah,
that's how it trains. I'd rather ask for
yeah, exactly.
permission.
and I think it's what's happening is that the flat there are no rules.
Yeah.
Your Facebook, you said it, and they're talking about mobile. And it's actually working. It's
working?
flat. And you repeat
Nice.
success.
Yeah, and get it out there tomorrow.
The brands are dying. It's part of the conversation. As we introduce people, I say, they are coming. They're dying.
No, with Ultimaker, it was Joe's.
I didn't ask you what
yes,
you
my,
did.
my
Yeah.
English is completely different. Healthy, so I know that stuff.
Oh, right, you stood at a terminal all day. You went to the word embarrassment. What my guy said. You tried to
Made them tidy for the
Yeah.
kids.
And if we know where the electric pressure points are on the body, that's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it do that kind of spiderweb thing before. Do you just cut that away with a knife?
It's not even with a knife changing thing.
Okay.
The one that's the one I use is for the fancy name is it.
So listen, do I have all your information?
Yes, yes. No, I don't, because that. You have my stuff.
Right, yeah. I noticed you were in a snake
Bye.